You ever wonder why some men would cross oceans for a woman, while others can't even bother to reply to a message? It's not about luck, not beauty, not even love, not in the way most people understand it. There's something deeper at work, something older than words. Carl Jung called it archetypal activation. See, deep inside every man, there are ancient patterns, forces that don't operate through logic or conscious choice. These forces are like sleeping giants, and not every woman awakens them. When a man meets a woman who touches that hidden core, she doesn't just become a person to him, she becomes symbolic, a meaning, a living, breathing embodiment of something he's been unconsciously waiting for. She stirs in him the protector, the builder, the dreamer, the fighter, not because she asks for it, not because she demands it, but because she resonates with something buried deep within him. That's the mystery, and I know it can feel unfair. You might have given your heart to someone, loved them fully, been loyal, generous, supportive, and still they left. Or worse, stayed physically but disappeared emotionally. You start questioning yourself. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? But here's the truth you were never told. A man doesn't fall in love with what you give. He falls in love with what you awaken in him. That's not manipulation. It's not a strategy. It's not about pretending or performing. It's about presence, energy. Being in your essence in a way that calls forth his. You don't need to convince a man who feels that pull. You don't need to chase, to prove, to beg him to stay, because to him you feel like home and fire at the same time. And when that happens, he'll risk comfort, safety, sometimes even everything he's built, because being near you feels like remembering who he truly is. You remind him of the man he wants to be, even if he didn't know it until he met you. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That applies to relationships too. Most men aren't even aware of these deeper impulses inside them. They just know something feels off or feels right. But what's really happening? Their inner world is responding to yours, not with logic, but with instinct, with soul. So if you've ever asked, why didn't he choose me? The better question might be, what part of himself did I call forth or not? Not to blame yourself, never that, but to understand the silent forces at play, so that your heart doesn't keep mistaking self-sacrifice for connection. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to remember who you are beneath the layers of pleasing, performing, or waiting to be chosen, because the right man won't need convincing. His soul will recognize you, and when that happens, he'll move mountains. It hurts, doesn't it? When you've given your all, your time, your softness, your loyalty, and he still drifts away like none of it mattered. Meanwhile, some women barely lift a finger and men fall over themselves just to stay in their orbit. It's not about fairness, it's about perception. And in Jungian terms, it's about projection. A man doesn't fall in love with a woman. He falls in love with the version of himself he experiences when he's around her. She becomes a mirror, a catalyst, a symbol, not because she tries to be, but because something in her energy activates something sleeping inside him. This is why two women can offer the same love, the same care, the same devotion, but only one will be felt as irreplaceable. It's not the quantity of what she gives. It's the quality of what she awakens. And here's the cruel part most of us were never taught. You can do everything right and still not be seen. Not because you lack value, but because he doesn't yet have the inner capacity to receive what you bring. You might remind him of his wounds. You might mirror parts of himself he hasn't made peace with. And when that happens, he won't lean in. He'll pull away. Not always because he wants to, but because he can't face himself in your presence. That's what projection does. It turns you into a screen for his unconscious. He either projects his light onto you, seeing you as the muse, the dream, the symbol of his strength, or he projects his shadow, his fear, inadequacy, the parts of him he's too ashamed to claim. And none of this is your fault, but it does affect you. So what do you do with this knowledge? You stop trying to be chosen. You stop exhausting yourself trying to prove you're worthy of love that should flow naturally. And instead, you start anchoring into your own value. Not because it guarantees his devotion, but because it protects your heart from internalizing rejection that was never really about you. The moment you understand that it's not just about what you give, but about how you're received, something inside you shifts. You stop blaming yourself. You start observing. You begin to ask different questions, not, what else can I give, but, what am I reflecting to him, and is it even mine to carry? Some men disappear not because you lacked value, but because they lacked readiness, and some stay, not because they truly see you, but because they see in you a comfort zone, a caretaker, a placeholder for their wounds. Neither of those is love. Real connection happens when two people stop projecting and start meeting. When he sees you not as a symbol, not as a savior, not as a mother, but as a woman with a soul of her own. That's when the game changes. That's when love becomes something sacred, not transactional. And it all begins when you start seeing yourself clearly, no longer filtered through the lens of someone else's readiness or regret. Let's talk about something most people overlook until it's too late. Respect. Not the kind you demand. Not the kind that's written into vows or talked about in books. I mean the quiet kind, the invisible current underneath every word, every glance, every pause in a conversation. For a man, respect isn't just a nice idea, it's oxygen. It's how he knows he matters, how he knows he's safe, how he knows he's still standing in your eyes when the world is tearing him apart. But the moment he senses it's missing, even in tiny, unconscious ways, something inside him begins to close. He might still be there physically, sitting beside you at the table, replying to your texts. But emotionally, he's already retreating. Jung spoke often about how we respond instinctively to subtle signals, a slight change in tone, a look that lingers too long with judgment, a joke that cuts a little too close to the bone. These things bypass logic. They go straight to the unconscious. To a man, they whisper, "You're not safe here." And so, without even realizing why, he begins to armor up. He talks less. He stops sharing. He loses that spark that once burned so freely with you. But here's what no one tells you. Respect isn't about agreeing with everything he says. It's not about silence, submission, or smiling through discomfort. It's about how you disagree. It's about how you express doubt or frustration. It's about making sure that even in conflict, your words say, "I still see your value." And deeper still, respect begins with how you treat yourself. If you constantly shrink, overextend, or tolerate what makes you ache, you teach him, without a word, that you're willing to abandon yourself. And if you abandon yourself, why should he treat you any differently? A woman who honors her time, her energy, her boundaries, she radiates something rare. She becomes the kind of woman a man instinctively respects, not because she demands it, but because she embodies it. And when that happens, something awakens in him. Not fear, not submission, but aspiration. He wants to meet her there. He wants to rise. Jung called this the activation of the hero archetype. It's not about saving her. It's about becoming worthy of standing beside her. And that shift, when it happens, is unmistakable. He begins to lead, to listen, to show up with presence and clarity. Not because she forced him to, but because she inspired him to. So if you've ever felt like a man started strong, then faded, ask yourself this. Did he feel safe to stay open in your presence? Did he feel respected even when he was wrong? unsure, messy, because a man will only stay fully available to a woman who honors him without shrinking herself. It's not a game. It's not manipulation. It's soul-to-soul alignment. Respect is the bridge between admiration and intimacy. And once it breaks, it's hard to rebuild. But when it's real, when he feels it, he'll do anything to stay connected to it. Men are taught from a young age to carry their pain in silence. Don't cry. Don't show weakness. Don't talk about fear. Just get up. Fix it. Keep going. And so they build walls, stone by stone, year after year. Behind those walls, they hide not just wounds, but selves. The self that feels deeply. The self that wants to be held without shame. The self that longs for someone to see behind the performance. But the world rarely gives them that space. That's why, when a man meets a woman who feels safe, not just soft, but safe, it hits him like a wave. He may not even know why he can't stay away, why he thinks of her in the quiet hours, why he tells her things he's never told anyone. It's not because she fixed him, it's because she didn't try to. She didn't rush to solve his problems. She didn't mock his fears. She didn't use his openness against him later. She just stayed present. She listened, with patience instead of pressure. And in doing so, she gave him something he didn't even know he needed, permission to be real. That's the turning point, because once a man experiences that kind of emotional safety, something profound happens inside him. He bonds, not just with his mind or body, but with his soul, not out of dependence, but recognition. You become his sanctuary. And here's the paradox. He doesn't want to be saved. He wants to know that if he takes off the armor, you won't flinch, that you won't shame him for being human. Jung understood this tension, the union of the masculine and feminine within each of us. It's not about power dynamics, it's about wholeness. When a woman holds space for a man's unguarded self, without needing to dominate or dissolve into it, she offers a rare gift. Home. Not a place, not a role, but a feeling, and once he finds that, he'll fight for it. But here's the line that must be drawn. Being his emotional anchor does not mean becoming his therapist. It does not mean tolerating disrespect or carrying pain that isn't yours. You're not here to heal him. You're here to meet him if and only if he's willing to meet you back. Emotional safety flows both ways. You're allowed to have your own boundaries, your own truth, your own softness protected by strength. Because when two people feel safe enough to be themselves, without masks, without roles, without games, that's when intimacy becomes real. That's when a man risks everything, comfort, pride, even control, because he knows he won't find this kind of connection twice. There's something about a woman who doesn't reveal everything, not because she's playing games, not because she's hiding, but because she knows her soul is not a commodity. It's a landscape to be explored, not a product to be consumed. Men feel this deeply, instinctively. They don't always have the words for it, but they know the difference between someone who's available and someone who's alive. And aliveness is magnetic. A woman who is rooted in her own life, her passions, her growth, her quiet evolutions, radiates something that no amount of performance can replicate. She becomes the unknown that invites pursuit, not for approval, but for discovery. Jung once said the unconscious longs for what expands consciousness, and that's exactly what a woman becomes when she refuses to shrink. A call to expansion, a living challenge. This is where true polarity ignites. It's not about being aloof. It's not about being untouchable. It's about being so connected to your essence that no one, no man, no relationship can replace your own depth. And when that happens, a man doesn't just want to touch your body. He wants to understand your world. He wants to earn his way into it, because deep down he knows nothing real comes easy. But here's the mistake too many women make. They think to be loved, they must expose everything. They must give and give, until there's nothing left but a mirror reflecting someone else's needs. And in doing so, they kill the very mystery that once lit the fire. Mystery isn't manipulation. It's the sacred tension between closeness and curiosity. When you stay connected to your dreams, your voice, your inner wilderness, you invite a man not just to stay, but to grow. Because now he's not just in love with you, he's inspired by you. He doesn't know what's coming next, but he knows it will be real. This is the woman he fights for, the woman who evolves, who doesn't hand herself over but walks beside him with her own path intact. Because here's the truth no one says out loud. A man might be drawn to many women, but he stays with the one who makes him feel more alive. Not through drama, not through pressure, but through presence. And the woman who can balance her fire with her warmth, her mystery with her openness. She doesn't need to beg for love. She becomes the one he never wants to lose. There's a moment in every woman's life when she quietly decides, I won't chase love anymore. If I'm not seen, I will leave. No threats, no dramatics, just a deep, grounded knowing. I deserve more than this. And that moment, it changes everything, because in that silent shift, a man feels it too. Maybe he doesn't understand it right away, but something stirs in his psyche. He senses that you're not waiting anymore, that your presence is no longer guaranteed. And that's when he faces the crossroads. Will he rise to meet you, or will he fade into the background like so many before him? Carl Jung wrote that what remains unconscious will appear as fate. But when a woman becomes conscious of her worth, she stops accepting what doesn't reflect it. She no longer explains why she deserves respect. She no longer overextends just to be chosen. She no longer stays silent to keep the peace while her soul withers. She leaves with dignity intact, even if her heart aches. And that is the very moment that a man's deeper instincts awaken, not because she played hard to get, but because she stopped negotiating her value. This is the unspoken ultimatum, not shouted, not forced, just lived. And for a man who truly cares, it's a jolt. It activates the hero archetype, the internal challenge. Will I grow into the man who's worthy of her? Because he realizes something profound. She will not wait forever. She will not lower her standard for convenience. She is willing to walk away, not because she stopped caring, but because she started caring about herself just a little more. And this doesn't push him away. It pulls him deeper if he's the kind of man who's ready. If he's not, he disappears. And that's not your loss. It's your liberation. Because here's what no one tells you. You don't lose by honoring your worth. You only ever lose by betraying it. A man doesn't grow from comfort. He grows when the woman he values requires him to, not through control, but through standard. So let go of the fear that says, if I don't give him another chance, I'll end up alone. And embrace the truth. If I honor my value, I'll only ever attract someone who can truly meet me there. That's not loneliness, that's power. Here's the truth that takes years to fully understand. You are not here to convince anyone to choose you, not with your patience, not with your sacrifice, not with your love that gives and gives until there's nothing left. You are not meant to beg for a place in someone's life. You are meant to be the place someone wants to stay. And the moment you realize this, everything shifts. You stop trying to fit into small spaces. You stop shrinking your truth to keep someone comfortable. You stop proving your worth to those who are too distracted or too damaged to see it. Instead, you begin to live your worth in how you speak, in how you walk away from what hurts, in how you hold your boundaries with grace and unwavering calm. Because when a woman knows who she is, she doesn't chase, she attracts. Not because she plays hard to get, but because she's already got herself. This is the paradox. When a man knows he can lose you, not because you're cruel, but because you're clear, He either rises or retreats. And that clarity, it's magnetic. It awakens something primal in him, the desire to earn, to pursue, to protect, not out of fear, but from reverence. You become the mirror that reflects his highest potential, not by demanding it, but by embodying yours. The strongest, most lasting love stories are not built on emotional dependency or the fear of being alone. They're built on choice. Two people choosing each other every day, not because they need to, but because in each other's presence they feel more alive, more seen, more whole. And that starts with you, with how you see yourself when no one else is looking, with how you love yourself in the quiet hours, with how you speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. You are the prize, not because you've suffered, not because you've waited, but because you've finally remembered who you are. Jung believed the process of individuation, of becoming fully yourself, is the path to real love. Not the love that binds, the love that frees. So let that be your compass, because the man who truly sees you, the one who feels your value, not just admires it, he won't need to be chased. He'll come closer, he'll stay, and he'll choose you again and again, because beside you, he becomes the man he's always wanted to be.